You're listening to a show on the Planet Film podcast feed.
I am Sean Monk.
And I'm TJ Cornwell.
And this is the Planet Council podcast. All right, so welcome everybody. This is going to be our Star Wars specific show. It's going to be coming out every week, Saturday morning. So it's going to be coming out, Saturday morning, 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 3 a.m. Eastern Standard. So this is going to be our Star Wars specific show. We're going to be kicking off the first 4 episodes. We're going to be doing some reviews of the Mandalorian Season 1. So this episode, we're going to be breaking down episodes 1 and 2. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. First, we're just going to go ahead and, talk about in general some Star Wars stuff. So without further ado, I just wanted to say, TJ, what is your earliest Star Wars memory? Or what is the earliest memory you have associated with liking or loving Star Wars?
So I know, when I first saw Star Wars, I don't know what grade I was. I was probably in middle school, I want to say. I had a friend that lived down the street. I think he's actually the one who got me into it. He got me into playing video games and stuff in general. But he was a big Star Wars fan, and I'm pretty sure I borrowed VHSs from him. I think. So I think he had the original trilogy on VHS. Mm-hmm. So I brought it home and then I watched it. And I think that's mostly where it started, I want to say. I know my dad watched it when he was younger. He's not a big he's not still into it or anything. Mm-hmm. But I think he watched them with me because I remember vividly watching Return of the Jedi. I don't remember watching A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back.
Really?
And then I'm pretty sure later, probably a year or so later, I got them on DVD. I've definitely used them more than, a few times. I've probably watched them a good 10, 11 times, using those DVDs. But I vividly remember watching Return of the Jedi, and Palpatine always scared me, and he still scares me to this day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's just this fear that I have for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
That just even for back then, though, that not to get too off track, but that makeup was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got to think also, Ian McDiarmid was 32 playing a guy that was 100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's that's one of the beautiful things about having Ian McDiarmid throughout every single movie, well, almost every single movie, is just that he was so young when he started.
Yeah.
Now the old age makeup, they don't have to do as much, but now he's got the creases and he didn't in one movie, but we won't talk about that. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I mean, having him be a 32-year-old guy in all this makeup doing this terrifying performance, like you said, not to get off track too much, but just him in Return of the Jedi is terrifying. Yeah. And also your reaction to the Rise of Skywalker trailer was fantastic when the laugh came across at the end.
I mean, I love the Emperor. He's probably one of my favorite villains. He just has he has very funny quotes as well. But yeah, when I was younger, he scared the living hell out of me. And then when I watched Revenge of the Sith, I think I watched it I don't know, a few years later at my friend's house. We were friends through elementary school, middle school, etc. He had Revenge of the Sith on DVD, and that scared me too.
Ooh, yeah.
I was losing it.
You saw the birth of the man.
That was a tough one. I just recently watched it a few weeks ago, and I was able to get through it. I was fine.
Yeah,
but it's still in my brain. It's still in my brain.
Yeah. Power. Yeah, so I'll just say, my earliest Star Wars memory. Luckily, we do not have the same or similar ones. I definitely know that I saw the prequels before I saw any of the original trilogy. So as far as I can remember, my first Star Wars memory was knowing nothing, maybe seeing like pictures of Darth Maul like on like coloring books and like maybe like toys and stuff in stores, but and like Count Dooku and like Obi-Wan and them, just like seeing stuff like shopping with my like parents. But it was my earliest memory of watching it was definitely in the theater in Attack of the Clones. That was actually my first or one of my first theater memories was going to see it. It was definitely not like opening weekend or anything, because I think I went with my grandfather because he like worked at my grandpa like worked at Disney and he was like big into like I mean, not that they owned it at that time, but he was big into like movies and stuff like that. So I think he took me to go see it. I can't remember because I was like 4, but it was definitely like late in its theatrical run, but it was like mesmerizing. Like I was like blown away. I mean, it's Star Wars, you know what I mean? It's like the first time you see it, you're like, what is that? How, what? Like you don't even understand like how movies can be like that. Cause like I had grown up, like I had been like, my family was very much movie lovers, all of them. So like I grew up like watching things like that I definitely shouldn't have been watching, like what do you want to call it? Like Moulin Rouge and stuff. And I was like, this is the guy from Moulin Rouge. I was like, I thought his hair was black, not brown. And like, it was just crazy to me to like see that in the theater. The other earliest one is I remember vividly because I had nightmares for months watching Chamber of Secrets in the theaters that same year. Because I would have nightmares about spiders for months. I'm pretty sure my hatred of spiders came from that movie, seeing it that young. But then obviously my most vivid earliest theater experience was I was like, by the time Revenge of the Sith rolled around, and I was like, I was ready to go. You know, I was like first grader, had the Star Wars lunchbox, had everything. Like I can't remember when she got it, but I remember at that time I must have already seen at least A New Hope, because my mom got me a poster that I thought was like the coolest thing in the world. It was actually like the first film poster I ever had, which is I have a few now. What am I want to say? It was for episode 4, but it was for the like special edition re-release in '97. And I had that on my wall, or actually in my closet, because my cats ended up eating that poster, but that's another story. So I had that in my room the night that I went to see Revenge of the Sith. So that like Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones were definitely my earliest memories. Yeah. And then obviously I think right after Revenge of the Sith came out, that's when I got Lego Star Wars. And Lego Star Wars, what's it called? At that time, it was just the prequel one. So it was just Lego Star Wars, because then it was Lego Star Wars, the original trilogy. Lego Star Wars was like what cemented it, because I would play that game for hours every single day after school.
This is the third one, right?
What?
The trilogy, I think it was like Lego Star Wars 3, the original trilogy or something like that, or
no, like this is like the
saga.
No, this is like the prequel one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So just the first game, not the original. I mean, I played the original trilogy too, but the original one that like the hub was like Dex's Diner, like that one. Where
I played that.
Where it was just episode 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
I would play that for hours, and that was like what cemented it. Because then I was like, I just want to be in this world, like live in this world. And then when, like a couple years later, when Clone Wars came out, it was done. Because Clone Wars was like definitely, I would say maybe still Clone Wars is, in my just overall aspects of Star Wars, I would say Clone Wars is definitely in my like top 3.
Oh yeah.
Maybe more specifically, Dave Filoni's in my top 3. Yeah. But we'll just say Clone Wars.
Did you ever dress up as like a character for
I don't know, because I know as a kid, like I dressed up like Batman like five
Yeah.
5 years in a row, but I
Because
can't
I know
remember.
I was definitely Darth Vader once for Halloween.
Oh yeah, I
know
think
that.
I was Darth Vader. I
Because you
think
had
that,
you have like the pack with the noises, and you press it, and it
yes,
was
you know what? Yeah.
really.
Yes, I definitely was. I had that exact same thing. Yeah. I think that was, if I had to guess, it was probably like 2005, 2006, like right after Revenge of the Sith came out, because it was probably like the Revenge of the Sith version of Vader that everybody dressed up as.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I was definitely Vader at least once. But yeah, so the next big question here before we get into the reviews is, on a general basis, right now, you as you are right now, what does Star Wars mean to you? What has it meant to your life? How do you feel about it?
Star Wars means adventure for me, entertainment, just like overall like action fun, but it also means disappointment. Because I'd say more disappointment. Just like, I mean, like obviously like the Mandalorian is a pretty good show. I know some people have like their problems with it, but like overall, like the latest, like when we heard that like there was gonna be a sequel trilogy, everybody was like, "Oh my god!" Like I thought it was over. I mean, that's what they did with the prequels. They were like, "Well, those were the
People were saying
original
that
trilogy. That's it."
Yeah, 1983. They've been saying that.
And then I would still agree that if they wanted to go back to it, they probably would. This, the Skywalker saga. But like this, like the most recent sequel trilogy, obviously, like it had its ups and downs, mostly downs in my kind of opinion. But I feel like I know I've seen movies before, like Star Wars, but Star Wars is the first movie I like remember where it actually like got me really like looking at different types of movies. So yeah, like it's definitely not the first movie I saw. It kind of more got me into film. Granted, like as I say a lot to you and like multiple other people, I only really started watching movies seriously like I don't know, a year and a half ago. They were more like before that, they were kind of just like, oh, like if I'm at a friend's house, we're bored, we'll watch something, or like, oh, I'll just watch something here or there. Like I never went to the theater religiously or anything. But I want to say like Star Wars was probably that movie where I'd be like, oh, I can watch this like all day, every day. Like if I need to watch A New Hope like 5 times in a row or Empire, I can watch it that many times.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been a bigger source of entertainment for me. And then especially with, I just watched all like Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I still forget sometimes that like you just recently like did that whole binge, but I mean, to his credit, he did it in it was like 2 months, both shows knocked out. God. It was like, he did it in time. He did it in time for the Clone Wars finale, and
And that's the thing, like they were just so easy to watch because they were so like. Granted, there was like a few arcs where it's like, this is like this is the most exciting thing in the world, but
like the Meeber Gascon arc with the droids.
Or with it, exactly. But they mostly keep you like, engaged, and you're like, well, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, overall, like I think it's just something that will always be with me, and that I can always come back to, no matter what. I still try to listen to like I just feel like Star Wars is an over-encompassing, like there's everything. Like there's music, there's movies, there's TV shows, there's merch, there's games. It's like it's just like one big juggernaut that I feel like just encompasses your life as soon as you like start like watch the first movie, like whatever it is.
I don't, very few things I disagree with in that, if any. So I would say, if I had to answer the question, what does Star Wars mean to me? I would say it means the feeling of being connected in a larger sense
Mm-hmm.
to everyone else, and to, it's like they say, you're luminous beings, part of a bigger universe. I would say overall that is what it means to me the most, is the feeling and being able to teach people that we're all in this together, basically, not like High School Musical, but like that we are all part of the same world. And it would really just be better for everybody if we just tried to work together and overcome our differences. And then also, like space wizards and like blasters and stuff is awesome too. But definitely, like X-Wings and stuff. That's like, it's like what I think Dave Filoni called it. Those are the like trappings of Star Wars. Like that's what people connect to, like when they think of like, oh, what's cool about Star Wars. But like Star Wars at its core is about, the struggle of staying good. It's not even necessarily the struggle of good versus evil.
Yeah.
It's the struggle. All 9 movies, all 3 TV shows, all the books, all the comics, it's all about the struggle to make the right decision. Even the Darth Vader comics, he is always struggling to find something better, to find some better existence. Sometimes he goes way off the deep end and he's just so angry he can't take it anymore. That's another lesson in itself. But there's a reason that what started as the main villain of the franchise has now, in my opinion, shifted to the main character of the franchise, is what started as the main villain. Mm-hmm. Because it's showing us that anyone can fall and anyone can be then subsequently redeemed. Vader fell, or Anakin fell to Vader, was redeemed as Anakin, got to live out the rest of his days, one with the Force. I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me. Yeah. We're all part of a bigger universe. Luke fell ideologically, hid himself away. His last act, just like his father, was to come back and save the day one last time, to show that is always going to be the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. At the start of Last Jedi, when he says, what do you think, I'm going to go out and face down the whole First Order with a laser sword? he says it like, oh, that's so ridiculous. Yeah. But throughout the course of the movie, Rey and especially Yoda teach him that's exactly what you have to do. I mean, not in a literal sense. Yeah. but somewhat in a literal sense, it's exactly what he did. He did. I mean, he died anyway, so I guess he could have physically gone. But kind of got the one up on Kylo. But it's what Poe says, he is stalling, and it's to get the story out that even one man, granted the most powerful Jedi in the entire galaxy, but even one man can stand up to the entire might of an army. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that is what Star Wars means to me. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, it's the struggle to always choose the right path. Yeah. That is what I would say Star Wars means to me. But yeah. So with that out of the way, some of our information, some of our background on Star Wars and what it means to us, how we feel about it, let's go ahead and get into the Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 1. So, first off, we're going to go with first impressions. What were your first impressions of the episode?
I thought it was a great way to start off the new series. It was good Star Wars, if I can call it that. Because, I guess, when this came out, Rise of Skywalker hadn't come out yet. Or did it?
No. This
is November, right?
This is November, yeah.
Okay. Overall, I thought it was a good setup. I liked showing. I like Mandalorians. I want to learn more about them. Mm-hmm. So I thought everything about that was good. I thought, this isn't a first impression, but something I love about this show for some reason, that introduction with the helmets and the light like shining on them to
Yes.
Star Wars. Oh, I love that. I don't know why.
Yeah,
but it's like my
it is
favorite
fantastic.
thing. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a great start to a new series, and I think you could definitely tell that there's, people who know and love Star Wars behind the show.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I would say my like initial thoughts or my first impressions of the episode would definitely that any doubt about Dave Filoni's inability to direct live action has been squashed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, he's not like Jon Favreau or like Steven Spielberg, like out the gate.
Yeah.
But like, it was a very well directed episode, and it's like you said. I think the sensibilities that he brings from Clone Wars and Rebels into it, having worked with Favreau on those two shows before, I think it really just bolstered the Star Warsy feel of the show that I was worried it might not have. And I think my main impression is this was the first thing that showed. I mean, season 2 is kind of going to undo that, but this is the first thing that showed us you can make awesome Star Wars, not relying on legacy characters.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to have any of those people in. Like Luke didn't show up, and I mean they're all around. Han is around out in the galaxy. Just like this guy is. They're doing the same job. Han is out there bounty hunting. At this time, he's like a racer. Like he's out there. They could have easily been like, "Oh, Alden Ehrenreich's Mandalorian season 1. He's gonna show up." But they didn't do that. And I think that's like my initial takeaway is just that it's a great show that proved right out the gate in its first episode that this is a show that is going to be able to stand on its own apart from legacy characters. And anyone we're going to get in season 2 that may be legacy characters only are able to come in because the foundation of the new characters is so strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you see it all the time where there's shows that, like, oh, this, like the CW shows, like, oh, this one's struggling. Let's bring in this guy for a few weeks to try and get, the ratings up or try to get like some energy going. This show did so well and people love these new characters so much. Let's bring some other characters they love and just see how they interact. You know what I mean? Like these characters, especially in these first 2 episodes of Mando and Queel, they're like instant classic Star Wars characters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and they're both basically like they're variations of things we've seen before, but with so much more depth to it. So I guess that would be like my first impression. But yeah, just, going through here, one thing I did just want to say is, how do you feel about in this show, humans speak, like, so a big thing in Star Wars is like Arabesh or Basic, they call it, which is basically like when people speak English. Like it's intergalactic basic is what it's called. But this show does something like different that we haven't really seen in Star Wars before. Well, sometimes we have, but I don't think to this extent, about like humans speaking alien languages and aliens speaking basic. People, I remember when this show first launched, people were like, that doesn't sit well. Like the bounty at the very beginning, Horatio Sands character, the blue guy.
Yeah.
People were like, I don't really feel like that fits into Star Wars. What do you think about that? How did you feel about it?
I just think that I feel like they've set that up like in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't really bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into when we go into episode 2, or I don't know if I have an episode 1 because I don't think it showed up in episode 1. There's a different thing that I don't really like that they have in there that I just think bothers me a little bit. But overall, no, I don't think it. But because it shows you like what they're saying at the bottom, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just more something like about Star Wars fans were just like, oh, that's kind of like like jarring because like you don't
Yeah.
see it that much, and it was just kind of like, oh, okay. And I think mainly it was really like the Horatio Sands thing where he's just kind of like talking like this, like I'll I'm just gonna like I'm molting like that kind of you know what I mean? Like it was just very like I'm from wherever, like, and same thing with episode 6, I believe, with Bill Burr's character. People were like flipping out over the Space Boston, like his accent. You know what I mean? Like, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But you know, it's just some people, you know, had issue with that. I just want to know, you know, what your take is. Me personally, I don't have any issue. I think I agree with what you're saying. Like, Yoda's an alien. He talks in English. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's got a speech impediment, but if you want to call it that, I don't know what you call it. But quick opinion, I guess I would want from you. If in season 2 or later on we get the child speaking, do you think he's going to speak like Yoda, all backwards, or do you think he's going to speak regularly? Like, do you think it's a genetic thing, or do you think it's like an upbringing thing?
I don't know. Did we hear? What is her name on the council?
Yaddle? No.
Yeah. Did she ever talk?
No, she never talked.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. I feel like they'd have to set up that it's part of the species.
Yeah.
Because if you have him talk like Yoda talks, then you'd get people assuming that he's related to him in some way. Yeah,
or at least like knew him or like was around him to like pick it up. Yeah.
I feel like you maybe have to have him talk, unless they've set that up at some point that that's how his species talks. But I don't know.
Nothing in canon. So
yeah, so no, I think they probably just have him talk regularly.
Yeah.
Do I think he's gonna talk though? I don't know. No.
And then I've just written here. Holy crap! He just sliced a man in half with a door.
Yeah. Okay. So
which is good.
What? Yeah. So when the trailer first came out, it was like you got the stormtrooper. You saw that. You see stormtroopers' helmets on spikes.
Oh yeah.
Now, like the thing with that is like, I wanted them like, don't cut away. Like just show it, please. Like because people, sometimes people say like, well, Star Wars is for kids. Well, obviously it's marketed towards kids because kids be like, Mom, buy this for me, buy me these toys, buy me this, blah blah blah. But like Mando, I felt like was advertised as like being the more adult, mature Star Wars. Granted, it's on Disney Plus, so it's not going to be like cutting head, like just real quick to go into like season 2. They probably do in season 1 when he's like shooting the. What are they called? Oh my gosh.
The Jawas?
Yeah. They're vaporized.
Yeah.
That, that's cool. Like I want granted, like obviously it like basically shows him getting sliced in half, but I just want you to stay on that shot.
Yeah. I think the only thing that it's just the sheer fact that it's on Disney Plus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it was on like Hulu or something, I'm sure they would have held that shot.
Yeah.
But I think it's as gruesome as they want to go for a Disney Plus original because, as people have pointed out, there are plenty of dismemberments and what do you want to call it? Beheadings on Disney Plus, both in Star Wars and in the MCU. There are multiple beheadings.
Yeah.
Including obviously Endgame, where there is a very substantial beheading quite early on in the runtime of that film. Then I just have here, just I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold. That line, I think it was in the original Comic-Con or maybe Star Wars Celebration trailer. But that line has just already like skyrocketed to like there's T-shirts, there's like that's just like such a iconic Star Wars line already. Let's see here.
Actually, can I get into? I have a question on here.
Yeah, go for it.
I don't remember what it was because I didn't get a chance to watch it like repeat watch this episode again. So I probably watched this episode again like a week or two ago.
Mhm.
I wrote down that I had to ask you. There was a reference about something called the Great Purge. Can you tell me about that?
So that is something that has not really been explored yet. That is the first. When in this episode when they mention it, that's the first time they've ever mentioned it.
Oh, okay.
Because basically the last time, so when it comes to the Mandalore and the Mandalorians, you know as much as I do because this the last time we have seen anything Mandalorian related, it was in Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
From when we left in Rebels to spoilers for season 4 of Rebels. When we left with Bo-Katan with the Darksaber, ruling Mandalore, everybody's kind of back in order. The Mandalorians are like, all right, we're going to stand up to the Empire. We're not going to let them oppress us, type thing. That is the last we have seen.
Okay.
Now cut to this, which is like 14 years later. Something happened because, spoiler alert again for this show, Bo-Katan does not have the Darksaber anymore.
Yeah, correct.
And there was something called the Great Purge, where all their Beskar was taken away. Seemingly, most of the people were murdered? Question mark. We don't really know. Like we don't really know. But yeah, that is definitely something. With the rumored inclusion of Sabine and like Ahsoka and Rex aside, like what I want to know is the interaction between the Mandalorian in this show and Bo-Katan and Sabine.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know what that relationship is. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know what is going on with that. Because clearly they have different interpretations of what it means to be a Mandalorian. So it'll be interesting what those characters interact are like. And, I just wrote here just about I don't know what you call it. I call it a crocodile walrus monster thing that jumps up onto the ship as they're trying to leave.
Oh, yeah, I wrote, where did I say it? I said, ice warning immediately justified when this fish kills that guy.
No, exactly. And I've just written that, something simple, too, that, like, first 5 minutes of the show, like, you realize, okay, these guys are trying to attack him. They're trying to take his bounty. He's ruthless. He will kill. But he does not kill this, like, animal. You know what I mean? Like, he shoots. He specifically switches his gun to the, like, shock setting and just electrocutes it so that it will fall back down. He could have put the blaster right up to it, like the rifle right up to him and, like, blown him away. But he didn't because it's, like, he realizes that, like, oh, well, we really probably shouldn't be on the ice. You know what I mean? Like, those guys were trying to kill me for my armor or the bounty. Like, I don't really know what, but they were trying to kill me. Versus, like, okay, this animal is just doing its thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really good, like, storytelling thing where it just shows that this guy has a code, and that's obviously going to be shown later where he's willing to kill something, but very, very protective of something else.
The other thing in that, like, just before that scene that I love seeing the spy medieval, like, doctor, like, type mask that the spies have, like, in the original trilogy.
Oh,
I love that character. I don't know why. It's almost like my affinity with the Emperor's, like, guards. Like, they don't really do anything. They're just, like, there, but I just, like, love their, like, look, I guess.
There's a great chapter in the book From a Certain Point of View, which I think I've told you about. It's the one where it's like it goes through A New Hope. Yeah. But each chapter is from a background character's point of view, or even just something else. Like there's a beautiful, beautiful chapter in that called Eclipse, I want to say, which unfortunately one of my top 3 Star Wars characters, Bail Organa, it shows you him and Brea Organa's death from their perspective on Alderaan.
Oh, okay.
It's a fantastic book. There's some really, really great stuff in there. But one of the ones is there's a whole chapter from that guy's point of view, the spy guy with like the long snout and stuff. And he basically talks about how like his people were like oppressed by the Empire, and that some of them basically do espionage work because of the way they look. So like most of his like people look like that. So that's kind of a cool canon from that book. It actually would make sense that this guy's doing like a similar job, because they're kind of they're kind of workhorses that like the other guy was trying to work his way off Tatooine. So it would be interesting if kind of sad if it's maybe the same guy and he's still working for other people. But it's cool nonetheless. But then I just written here, Carl Weathers, just fantastic. Just as soon as he walks in, the presence is like electric, and it's
both him and Herzog both have that, like, their voice is just kind of like, I don't know, you like listen, like you hear it and you like look at them.
They have like a commanding presence.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, like as soon as he walks in, like as soon as Mando walks in and Carl Weathers just screams, he's like, Mando! Like the whole bar just like shuts up.
Yeah.
But it's just so amazing. And just the fact that Carl Weathers is finally in Star Wars, it's one of those things where like it was kind of like a joke back in the day of because they look so similar, well, not look so similar, but like with the mustache and stuff, like him and Billy D. Williams were like very similar, especially in the same time period, like the 80s and 70s and 90s and stuff. But you would always be like, well, one of them was in Star Wars, one of them's not. Now we got both of them in Star Wars, which is like fantastic. It's just Carl Weathers is just so awesome, and to have him in this show and to have him be such a consistent character, like that he's like pops up multiple times, is so awesome. He's another one too that I'll say like along what I said earlier, Queel and Mando, like Grief Karga has become like an instant classic character as well. But other than that, some things I just wanted to say, like mix of CG and practical is fantastic. I've also written that the taming scene where he's trying to learn how to ride the blurg is like just even with just what's his name, Ludwig Göransson's score is just like it's so like emotional and so Star Warsy with that scene.
I for some reason thought that was longer. I don't know why. When I rewatched it, I was like, because I had heard I thought I had watched a few things where people were like, I didn't like that about that episode. It was too long or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I like watched it and I was like, it's like, I don't know, 5 minutes, maybe less than that. Like, it's nothing like where I'd be like, okay, this is really slowing down this, 28-minute show.
Yeah. Well, that's like another thing that I guess we can bring up too is kind of the, how do you want to say, not backlash, but criticism maybe, or unhappiness with the episode lengths. People were very upset with how short it was because people thought it was going to be like an hour, like an hour every single week. I think overall, having watched the first season, I think it's really a show, and I think I wrote this in my notes for the second episode, which we will get to. It's really a show that kind of doesn't have any fat. You know what I mean? It's a really trimmed down show. Mm-hmm. The only information, it's weird. It's a show that both takes its time and is also very, very deliberate with what information you get. You know what I mean? Like there can be a 5-minute scene of, the two of them talking or like the going to get the egg. You know what I mean? Like they very easily could have just like said the egg, and then like just cut to him coming back with it.
You almost have to think that also it helps with, Filoni, he worked in animation where the show has these arcs of like, 3 episodes. Yeah. So to have a consistent story in those 3 arcs, you got to keep your audience engaged and not have a lot of filler. Exactly. So you have to think that almost helps with it. Does Jon Favreau just write the episodes? Or does Dave Filoni also write episodes?
I think Dave Filoni like as a co-writer.
Okay. So yeah, like I could see that help, like be like, well, I have this mindset when I'm writing this animated show where I only have 3 episodes or 3 or 4 episodes to get a whole story across. How can I expand that through 8 episodes of a season, but each episode, you know, has like almost its own story in a way, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really one of those things where, you know, exactly like what you said. It's each episode has its own story, and then it's only at the very end when you realize every single aspect of those individual stories were needed to get you to the final moment. You know what I mean? Which I think is great. Okay, so the last thing here, just with this character or with this episode, overall thoughts on IG-11, and then overall thoughts on star of the show, the child.
Well, when I first saw IG-11, obviously I was like, "Oh my god, it's oh my god, what's
IG-88?"
IG-88. I was like, "Oh," but I just love how he's like, because I'm pretty sure it's practical.
Yeah, they said like on set, like the torso like the like top of the arm is practical.
Yeah.
Because they said they made it as just like a stand-in, but the stand-in was so good that they started using it for like close-ups and quarter-length shots and stuff. The only thing that's like CG is the legs and arms because of the movement. You know what I mean? It's so like up and down and like robotic.
I just love like the whole like. I think he like goes into like there's like a mode he goes into where he just like goes berserk. He's like spinning around.
Yeah.
And I just love that Taika voices him.
I know.
I think that's great.
And I love that that they very easily could have like cashed in on Taika voicing him and been like, all right, go for like do the Korg voice. You know what I mean? Like the like the hey guys, like but he goes like the total opposite.
But like you also have to make him sound menacing.
Exactly, yeah. So, like he just sounds so like distant and cold, which is like fantastic. Like I think the voice is just perfect. And I love that. I do like that they made him a different IG unit and not IG-88 because it's like then any like headcanon or like cool stories you made up for IG-88 can still happen. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't ruin the mystery of IG-88. So you just bring in a different type of droid and you can just basically have like a blank slate to do something cool with him. But all right, so we have them. They're going in the bunker. Take it out. Some great comedy in that scene of them taking out everybody around. Like when one of my favorites is when Mando comes out from around the corner and he sees the big gun and it just stops him and he just goes, okay, and then he just like turns back around. And then we get inside. What's going on? Where's the guy? Where's the bounty? He sees the tracking fob, brings it over, opens the thing. Baby Yoda, the child. America, the world, the universe goes crazy. There's a baby Yoda. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I thought it was a cool reveal. I know because I was gonna say I remember when this app launched, the first episode was up, and we both waited up till like 3 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember I was freaking out because I was like, what? Like because it's almost like you've never seen another like other than Yaddle.
Yeah.
You've only ever seen those two, like Yoda, and that's it. So like it's almost like you're kind of in your mindset. You're like, well, is there other, is there other people of the species? Like, is this even, or is it just those two?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's like interesting to see. I think it's an interesting setup. I'm interested to see where it goes. Obviously, this opens up like that. Just is like boom, like it opens up everything about the show. I hope they like get into. I mean, I imagine they might, or they should, is they just get up into his history, how he got there, et cetera, like that. But it's almost like you can see, like when they zoom in on Mando's helmet, and he's just like, and the IG-11's like, well, there he is. Like we gotta kill him.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait. He's like, didn't he? Because they said he wanted him alive, or they're like dead or alive, or
Yeah, that's like another interesting thing is because, and that's another character that we kind of brushed over. We talked about him a little bit, but the client, Werner Herzog's character, fantastic. But that's another thing about this is he told him specifically. He said, "Bring it in alive." But then we get the great line of bounty hunting is a complicated profession. And then he's like, you can bring it in dead. And then the doctor like freaks out.
Whoa!
But it seems that every other bounty hunter that's going after the child was told
gonna kill it. Yeah,
because IG-11 says like the job quite specifically said the target was to be killed.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Like, so who got it wrong? Was he lying to Mando, or was he like I don't know? But that's something to explore as well. But yeah.
But then it's just like
close up on the helmet.
Yeah, it's like you see him like change like in like an instant.
Yes, like, and it's all done behind the helmet. It's
like you can't see anything. Yeah.
But when they zoom in, and he doesn't even move. I think maybe at most he does like a that, just like a little like head thing. But you could just see, and there's nothing that changes on his face. But you can see the gears turning and saying, this is not happening. Like I'm not letting this happen right now. Like you see that happen, and you literally can't see anything. Mm-hmm. That's how good it is, and I need to re-say, you've only known this character for 40 minutes.
Like, also, which also, like, it doesn't make him just, like, a simple... It complicates him. Because at the beginning, like you said, you have the, what is it, warm or cold? Is that what you said the thing
Yeah,
was?
I can bring you in.
Yeah, it's like, I can bring you, which is, like, so, like... not vicious. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm going to bring you in no matter what. You're dead or... I don't really care.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you see, like, he's looking at this kid, and he's like, well, hold on. Can I kill this, or can I even bring it in alive? Can I do this with this young, creature that probably has no idea what's going on?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, like, when the blaster goes, like, you see, like, the reflection in his... thing, and you're like, did you kill him? And then you have IG-11, like, falls to the ground. It's like, oh, well, this show's kicking off.
Exactly, and then just right after that, which that moment is like amazing. It's actually funny. One of my favorite movies from this year, The Gentleman. I just rewatched it yesterday or the day before that. There's a very similar moment in that movie where somebody, it looks like somebody's going to get shot, and then they do a zoom in on the face, and then something else happens. But it was just interesting because I rewatched this episode the same day I watched that, and I was like, oh, that is very, very similar. It's just interesting that like that trope is so, like, it's a trope because it's so effective. You know what I mean? Like, it makes you worry about the character, but at the same time makes you like love the character who kind of got one up on, in this case, IG-11. All right, so then boom, IG-11 falls to the ground, dead. Baby Yoda, he's looking at him, puts his hand out, puts his hand up to him, episode over.
Yeah.
What are your, like, one sentence or two, what are your final thoughts for episode 1 of The Mandalorian, called The Mandalorian?
I thought it was a very good, very strong starting episode that really opens up, not that the world needed to be opened up anymore, because, it's like a never-ending galaxy.
Yeah.
But it really opens up all these different questions and storylines that they can go down with. And I just think it's a great start to a new series.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the exact same thing. So with that, I just wanted to say that the Planet Council podcast will be right back. All right, thank you so much. And now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 2, The Child. So, once again, I will throw it to you, TJ. What were your initial first thoughts of this episode, picking up pretty much right after the events of the last episode. What are your initial thoughts watching this one?
Overall, I thought it was another like solid episode. I don't know why. It might have just been because it was late. I just didn't take as many notes on this episode as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I thought it was a good one. I thought it had some good action with the sandcrawler scene when he's trying to, fight to the top and keep punching off and everything. Now I'm just thinking of this now. I don't want to say it wasn't like a filler episode, because in the entire episode, all he's really doing is getting his parts back for his ship.
Yeah.
So like it's not, but there's also like a reveal,
Exactly. Yeah. That's like what I was talking about with the first episode is like, and like you don't really know how important that's going to be until the end, and then also the movie that came out right around there is like that was the big kind of reaction when the episode first came out was like, all right, well, what did he do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the Jawas stripped his ship and then he put the ship back together. That was it.
Yeah. It's almost like the that Clone War, the 7th season of Clone Wars, where the entire arc where they're running around the prison in that one episode.
Oh yeah, the what's it called? The Trace and Rafa arc.
Yeah, where they're just like they end up in the same place that they were.
that specific episode was definitely 100% filler. I mean, literally the entire episode. First of all, the episode was like 21 minutes or maybe even 20 minutes. And the entire episode, they literally break out at the beginning and then they just wind up back in the exact same spot. So if you really want Star Wars filler, look up, I think it's like episode 1. I think it's episode 2 or 3 of the Trace and Rafa arc in season 7 of Clone Wars. But I do get your point. I do get your point on the fact that, like, kind of, granted it has that one reveal, but it's just kind of, this episode was more so the first one was like setting up stuff, doing all this.
Mm-hmm.
I would say aside from this one big reveal, that is huge, obviously, massive. I feel like this episode was really just like, how cool of an episode can we make of a Star Wars show? You know what I mean? Like could we just make like a 45-minute, or like a 40-minute, just like awesome, cool, action-packed, funny Star Wars episode from start to finish? And I think it was Rick Famuyiwa that directed this one. I think he definitely pulled that off because, like you said, most of my notes are about the Sandcrawler, I guess, would you call it chase or climb? When and also this episode, I think more than any other episode, well, maybe episode 4, because that is very heavily influenced by Seven Samurai, obviously. But this episode, maybe more than any of the few other ones, is so clearly influenced by other films. Like the whole Sandcrawler chase, it's almost identical to the Indiana Jones chase with the tank, where he's going, and then also the one with the truck, where Indy is like going around the truck as it's moving, and so it's kind of reminiscent of both of those things. And then the episode in general is very, very reminiscent of both of the Lone Wolf and Cub movie, which is a story, which is just like so apparent, even just in the imagery of them walking together, and that silhouette. I think it was Kathleen Kennedy or maybe Bryce Dallas Howard, I can't remember, that said in the Mandalorian documentary that every Star Wars character needs to have a silhouette. Like that's just kind of how they think of it. That every character, if you just had their silhouette, like, oh, you would know that's Cara Dune. Oh, you would know that's Darth Vader. That's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I think the silhouette, not only just the fact that it's in the logo, but I just think the silhouette of Mando walking and the pod next to him is just so iconic already after just a few months of being out. I think it's incredible, like what they've done. And I think a lot of that comes from this episode. That's kind of what this episode kind of ingrains in us the bond that is still building, but the very real bond between Mando and the child that we're going to see throughout the rest of the series. And I think that's really the cool stuff aside. I think that's really where this episode shines, is showing that building relationship between them, especially at the campfire scene. When he keeps trying to walk up to him and he's trying to do the magic hand thing, as Carl Weathers would say. I think it really just shows, just the great relationship that's going to be built between these two guys. Just a few things I have here is like another influence too is when he's climbing up the thing. It's very reminiscent of Batman 66. When they're climbing up when Batman and Robin are climbing up the side. I mean, it's almost shot for shot, like frame for frame, the exact same thing, which I think is just hilarious. You even have like obviously the cape going down. And then I just have written here these poor Jawas. He's just they're like, oh, this is free merchandise. It's like the Tim and Eric thing of like, it's free real estate, like the free real estate joke. Yeah. Like they walk up, they start stripping the ship, and then all of a sudden this guy comes over the ridge, starts popping them. He's like, oh my God, what happened to Billy? Yeah. Like he's gone. He is just disintegrating them left and right. And then they take off in the sandcrawler, and they're like, he's not giving up. He's chasing us. And he jumps up, and then when he's climbing up, they're throwing stuff at him. They're throwing like crap down at him. And he's like ripping them out and throwing them on the ground. Like, it is some crazy stuff.
I thought that was a funny part too, where he's like just standing there and they shock him, and he's just like,
oh my God, yes. Yeah, I have a lot of that. I wrote the shot of him getting electrocuted and falling is not just awesome, but it's also, I wrote, it's very visually interesting because the planet, obviously, it's not like a desert planet, but it's like a mud planet, I would call it. You know what I mean? Like there's just like dirt. It's like a farm planet or something. And so I wrote here that just like, him with like the mud on him, and he doesn't even have as much mud as he's going to get, but him with like the mud on him and the brown of the background, the brown of his armor, like everything like that. And then you just have this like stark blue with the electricity going through him. Mm-hmm. I was like, it just looks so visually interesting. And another thing we haven't talked about yet is the fact that over the end credits, they always have the artwork. Yeah. I believe that's the first picture of artwork that plays in the credits. And it looks just as beautiful as it does like in the show. It's just so cool. You just have all this brown, textured stuff. And then you just have these like bright blue lines of electricity. And like you said, just the visual humor of just the fact that he gets all the way to the top and then he just does like he just goes completely like dead. Yeah. I think that's so funny.
There's also like one when they like catch up to him with oh my gosh, what's it called? Is it Nick Nolte, his character?
Yeah, Quill?
Yeah. And they're like talking and they're like, he's like, you can't be like, they don't like guns and blah, blah. And he's like, they stole my parts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's like, because they say like, and I love the line delivery of I forget the actress's name who's actually in the Quill suit, but her and they say in the documentary that basically Nick Nolte records all the lines and then she acts to it. So like she acts to his inflections and stuff. And I just love the shot where like you can already tell that the Jawas are going to ask for the Beskar because they're like in their language you hear like Beskara or something. Yeah. And I just love the matter of factness when Quill just turns, he just goes like, he's like, all right, we got this solved. He's like, listen, they'll give you everything back for the Beskar. Like we got like Quill just pulls like, oh, we got this. Listen, that's all. And Mando's like, what? They stole it from me. I'm not trading them anything. Like, it's so funny. just the humor between those two characters is so funny. And I've written here the egg, just the whole egg thing.
That animal, I was
the
like,
mudhorn,
reminds me exactly of, I don't know if it's the same animal from Attack of the Clones.
That's what I have written here. That I wrote because I was wondering if you were going to bring that up because I was going to bring it up. I wrote here. I looked it up. It's not a reek. A reek is the animal that you're talking about, the one that attacked Anakin in the Geonosis arena. That is called a reek. It's got like the 2 horns, or 3 horns. I think it's 2 horns. I can't remember. But it's not a reek, but it's probably like evolved from a reek. Like they're like the same kind of animal, but it's not the exact same thing. But the actual like Wikipedia entry is a mudhorn, which is what they call it later on. But yeah, I specifically because I was like, I wondered this in the first time I watched the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Should probably look it up, but yeah, it's not. But it's basically like the same family of animal. And then I've also written here, anytime in Star Wars live action or animated, a Mandalorian uses their little wrist grapple thing, it never ends well.
Never works.
Yeah, I said 3 examples: this fight, Obi-Wan and Jango Fett on Kamino, and Boba Fett and Luke at Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. Like, literally, Luke just goes like that with his lightsaber and cuts out of it. There's even more antics going on with Obi-Wan and Jango Fett with that thing where they both pull each other down almost into and die in the sea. But yeah, I just written here that never seems to end well. And then again here he gets yanked and pulled through the mud and gets all covered. But then we get to the finale of the fight, which is a great moment where you're kind of like Mando's just so defeated. Like he literally just he gets the energy to just barely stand up. Yeah, he just holds the knife right in front of him, like he's just ready to die, basically. And then you have the big moment. Magic hands. Yeah. Baby Yoda lifts up the mudhorn, and he's like, "What just happened?" And so then he's able to. Then when he drops the mudhorn, he's able to get the knife in, kill him. Which I've also written, pretty easy kill, like one tiny dagger, just like twisted, kill this giant thing. Yeah, but it's whatever. I guess different animals have different brains. But yeah, so the child has the Force. Yeah. Can use the Force. What are your thoughts on this scene, just how everything kind of played out, the fight in general, and then the build up to the reveal that he has the Force?
I thought the fight was a good fight. I also, again, thought it was longer for some reason. Mm-hmm. It was shorter than I thought it was. The Force powers, I wrote this down. I don't know exactly where it is. They hint at it early in the episode. Because he does like some type of like, he doesn't like do anything, but he like raises his hand like that, like he's about to do something, but nothing happens. Mm-hmm. So they kind of foreshadow it in a way, I guess, but you'd have to really like look at it and be like, oh yeah, he's
they're like, I think what it is that was the foreshadowing of the Force heal. Because he's trying to reach for his cut. He's trying to, because Mando's trying to cauterize his wound.
You just reminded me of that. And that, I'm not even going to go into it. Is it in like a later episode they do that? Or they did it in this episode? I forgot.
The Force heal?
Yeah.
No, that's in a later episode.
Okay. Because that, and then the whole, never mind.
Yeah. Well, because the later episode it happens in is the one that came out right
before Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Really, they thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. We did.
But yeah, overall, like the Force powers obviously opens up again more questions and everything. Mm-hmm. Which honestly, like, obviously the second season is probably going to pick up like right where it left off. Correct, with the first season.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm like, are you gonna? Because you're bringing in all these. You're bringing like Ahsoka. You're bringing in Ezra, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, like and like Sabine, Rex,
So you're bringing in
Tan.
like at least one other Force user.
Yeah.
So like, are they gonna train?
And also, don't forget, I mean, Luke he's recruiting right now.
Yeah.
You know, right at this time, he's recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can top off the episode. Let's talk about first. You know, they repair the ship and everything. After Baby Yoda gets knocked out, he's knocked out like for the rest of the episode. So there's a great montage of them repairing it. You know, I've written here that Queel is a savage, as the kids would say. That when he says, you know, we need a whole crew. This is going to take, you know, days. And he's like, well, Queel says it would go a lot faster if you actually helped.
Yeah.
And then we have a great montage of them rebuilding the ship. They show that like days have gone by. The entire time, Baby Yoda is still knocked out. So like this took a lot out of him. I think it's easy to forget that entire montage, like he was knocked out. So that's like days that this took out of him. And then the show is back up, or the ship is back up, I should say. Yeah. The ship is back up. Queel is offered a position on the ship. He says, you know, some great Queel background, where he says, you know, I worked as a slave for the Empire. He's like, I'm not going to work for anybody ever again. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, they take off. Finally, right at the end of the episode, you know, Mando's kind of shaking the cage, trying to pod, trying to wake up Baby Yoda. Nothing works. And then finally, on his own, he finally wakes up. And he looks pretty, like, dazed. So on that, you know, what do you think about the conclusion of the episode? You know, with they got the parts, got it all fixed, and we're off to maybe take the package back to the client, maybe go somewhere else. We don't really know. Yeah. What do you think?
I thought it was a good end to the episode. There's only like one problem I had. Mm-hmm. I think it's towards the end of the episode. The realistic like baby noises I hate those.
Really?
I just like, I guess it takes me out of it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, those are like clearly like a human, like,
yeah,
you know, baby. And it's, you know, you never like you never see the baby, like, I guess, move his mouth and like do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's always like off camera kind of.
Yeah.
That those noises come up. But yeah, that just like I don't know why, it just bothers me.
Yeah, and that's something that I never really thought about, but I mean, I would say I do agree, because it's one thing that again, it comes down to like how similar actually are him and Yoda. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like Yoda's like making noises like that already. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
he does.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Oh, that's my favorite noise ever.
But what's it called? But like Yoda already makes like the like that, like those types of noises. So it's like, I guess maybe it just depends, because I mean it would make more sense to have him do maybe more like as opposed to like a typical, like, I mean, like he legitimately is like saying like goo goo gaga.
It's like, like it's like they went up to one of the crew's kids and went, okay, can you like, you know,
do this in the mic.
10-month-old do this noise, please.
Yeah, exactly.
The other real thing, quick, is I thought this was a good showing of why it would have been a mistake to not use the puppet. I thought that the puppet, you know, it just brings the Baby Yoda to life. Because I feel like in CG, it would just be, because, you know, he picks it up, he puts it back in the thing, in the, what is it called?
And you can the like pod thing, like you can feel the weight when he places.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I just love him like walking around, just like looking like that. If it was CG, you know, it just wouldn't.
It would be too fluid.
Yeah, and like we said, they even talk about it in the doc. I think we said it like on the film podcast a few weeks ago or whatever. That, you know, the cast feels like it's like a living thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it gives it more emotional weight, like if something happens or if you're holding it or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, with that, I guess I would say my overall thoughts is I would say it's overall I would say it's a great episode. First episode of the season directed by Rick Famuyiwa. He comes back to direct another one later on. I said the combination of action, great storytelling, the comedy, and just the overall like Star Warsiness of the show is really just like pitch perfect in this episode. They really nail the combo of all those things. You know what I mean? The action, comedy, Star Wars, everything, as well as fantastic character moments. I just think this episode really shows, what this show can be, and shows also that it's only going to go up from here, or it has the opportunity to only go up from here. So those would be my overall thoughts. What would you say for final overall thoughts on the episode?
Like basically the same as you. Overall, it's a good episode, a good action, good storytelling. I don't exactly remember what episode comes after this, so I'm interested to see like what happens after.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was a good story. Maybe just like you can feel like if it's filler or not. Depends. But overall, I thought it was a good sequel to the first episode, whatever you want to call it, I guess.
Good, like follow up.
Yeah, follow up. Yeah.
All right, so those were our thoughts on episode 1 and 2 of season 1 of The Mandalorian. Like I said, we will be back next week on Saturday to like Friday night, Saturday morning, whenever you want to listen to it. But that is when it will post. To talk about episodes 3 and 4 of season 1. We'll also be back, obviously, on our regular show Monday night, Tuesday morning, Planet Film Pod, where we'll be discussing the week that was in movie news and also reviewing a new movie for that, which we will, you'll find out what that is when you tune into the episode. But with that, I just wanted to say again, my name is Sean Monk.
And I'm TJ Cornwell.
And remember, the Force will be with you always.